Alright, what I got this week? Some Wuchang news. Another Sweet Baby Ink game. Oh yeah, Outer Worlds 2 again in the limelight. Veilguard's back. What? Oh, we have more Mindseye. That and more for this week of news. Now, let's go. Now, we're kicking off this week with Alien Analytics predicting that Wuchang Fallen Feathers will be the next $100 million breakout title. This based on the claim that roughly 60% of Wuchang's wishlists have played Black Myth Wukong, and that the game had over 15 million copies sold on Steam alone. With the fact that the audience for Souls-like games and Dark Fantasy themes has grown over the past 3 years, and the blog post over on Alien Analytics says that gamers are hungry for myth-rich cinematic single-player adventures. They hope to see Wuchang hit similar results as Black Myth Wukong. There is also more, but to finish up another point, Wuchang is currently trending well ahead of other games that reached 30 million in the first month of Steam sales. But the turquoise lining representing Wuchang Fallen Dynasty illustrates early interest only set the stage. Ultimately, week 1 performance and user reception decide how high the game will climb. Moving on, another game with the Sweet Baby Ink infection was found. The game Wuchang Rise of the Deceiver was found having a direct involvement with Kim Belair and Samarin Wild. I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing or correcting myself on this one. Over on Twitter, Master of the TDS also showed a clip where the senior writer at the Brass Lion admit that Kim and Cameron were directly involved in the project. In the biggest shock of all of the topics on the game's Steam discussion page where the ties to Sweet Baby Ink are brought up are still open as of recording. Is this gonna stay like that? Only time will tell. Side note, the gameplay in the trailer looked like it was running at 15 to 20 FPS while the video was running at 1440p 60 FPS. Yikes. And now for something that started off as a rumor on r/gaming leaks and rumors, and it might have something behind it. Xbox is potentially going full digital. This post combined with the Xbox Games Showcase seemingly lacking a physical release at online retailers. The two games that stand out most were The Outer Worlds 2, more on that in a bit, and Ninja Gaiden 4, with the lack of physical copies. All of that combined with a post on Blue Sky saying, and I quote, PS5 games pre-orders up at VGP, and VGP will not carry Xbox Deluxe versions because they're code in a box. Yeah. And the response to the original Reddit thread, the user 3buffsharks pointing out that there were a lot of layoffs in the physical retail division team for Xbox last year. This doesn't look good for people who want to preserve their games on physical media, and I very much doubt that companies are willing to sell games on USB drives as an alternative to game CDs, as they won't have an incentive to push their online renting platforms. But anyways, let's go back to The Outer Worlds 2, and the elephant in the room that costs $80. And almost as if the ending of the physical copies for Xbox games was foreshadowing something, Joe Vargas told people to not buy the game for $80, but instead get it on Game Pass since it will be there since day one. However, Grumps replied to him saying, and I quote, "This is the whole strategy. They want you on Game Pass instead. They want you renting, not buying." And the Steam discussion page for the game is filled with posts from people that are not happy about the price. The Obsidian developers made a mega thread about the pricing and just started merging them all into that mega thread, which as of writing has 35 pages, each set to 50 comments per page. Make of that what you will. Moving on, Borderlands 4 Steam mods are banning any form of gender speech. This originally was reported by Dr. Disaster after one of his viewers emailed him about a topic. The viewer is German and he asked about how the translation for the German language will be handled. Then, the mods handed him a warning for spamming because it was quote-unquote off-topic or redundant. The poster was polite and was just asking a simple question. As you can see, there is literally no reason to warn him. The same viewer followed up with a more aggressive message saying, and I quote, "That was a serious question about gender speech and I ask again, will it be in, and if yes, is it deactivatable? But it looks like you were so woke developers, you do not want to answer the serious question. Instead, say it's spam, what it isn't. That no problem? I will put your game then on the ignore list," for which he got banned for 24 hours for continuing to break the rules. I was just asking a simple question portraying about a localization rule breaking? I don't know. The viewer also emailed directly the Borderlands support team, but they stated that our support team does not have any oversight or authority to influence or reverse decisions made on the Steam forums. Aren't mods normally, I don't know, hired by the company that publishes the game? I don't know, somebody correct me in the comments or something. Once the 24 hours were up, he asked again about the gender speech, and to no one's surprise, got permanently banned for spam. Yep, apparently, just looking for info is equivalent to spam. To me, this sounds like the mod team chose war over simply answering an honest question. Oh well, put this in a pile of shit shows for the game, right behind that $80 catastrophe. Moving on, The Cube is announced to be an MMORPG shooter set after Atomic Heart's 4th DLC, and the moment pretty women are on screen, you can expect the usual audience to just start screaming slop, gooner, bait, etc. at the top of their lungs. It's like that every time you get a pretty lady for fan service. They collectively shit their pants and have a public meltdown on social media. It's just a never-ending cycle, and I'm all for it. I mean, there has to be some entertainment in life, you know. What better way than some schizo on social media losing their shit over a bunch of pixels? Moving on, Bungie got a new creative director for Marathon last month. As the article on Insider Gaming said, Marathon Bulletin spotted that Julia Narden is now the creative director on Bungie's Marathon, and that she took her new role in May 2025. Remember, there was also a report about cancelling Marathon's planned paid marketing, which should also suggest a delay or the game to be cancelled altogether. But you know what? I say release it as is. Sony can take it, right? I mean, after all, they're fans of live-action service slop at the end of the day. And in other news, apparently Dragon Age the Veilguard failure is on 2 live service pivots. And if you guessed that, they believe it was because it was a multiplayer game, you would be correct. Have a cookie. Jason Schreier finally figured out why Veilguard failed, because it apparently got caught up in the live service / multiplayer trend chasing. When the game was being conceived, it was supposed to be a single player RPG, but with the rise of games like Destiny, it pivoted to a multiplayer game. However, since that didn't work, they went back to a single player RPG and tried hammering the multiplayer stuff into that single player game. That always a good idea. If only there was a game that released a year earlier, they could maybe learn something from it. Baldur's Gate 3. Looking at the start of Jason Schreier's article, it just makes me pity him for how pathetic he comes off again, trying to paint the game as a success by saying and I quote,
"The early reception was largely positive,
and
the role-playing game was topping sales charts on Steam."
the vast majority of the positive reception was from gaming outlets trying to pander to the studios just to make sure they still have access to their benefits. But I digress. You know, sales charts also were mainly because there was nothing really competing with it. In other news, PlayStation is allowing refunds for Mindseye. Even PlayStation Sport is aware how bad it is. In a Reddit post from Mindseye subreddit, side note, at the point of writing the account and the posts were deleted. If I can find an archived version of it, it will be included in the sources below. A player contacted PlayStation Sport, and when the user told the staff member about Mindseye not running at 60 FPS on their PS Pro, even though the trailer advertised that it did, they stated, "It seems you are correct regarding optimization for the game. The situation is currently under investigation, but in the meantime, let's proceed with your refund request," and asked for a confirmation of the refund. But guys, don't worry. This is all an attempt by a rival studio to sabotage the game, like the co-CEO said. Just ignore the fact that it's a buggy and an optimized mess. On the bright side, at least, the developers behind Mindseye are trying to roll out hotfixes to fix the performance issues, but looking through the Steam reviews, you can see that people are leaving enough negative reviews to put it in mixed review, and some people are even refunding the game. And the most helpful of all time statistic, I had to scroll quite a while to find a positive review. Make of that what you will. Moving on, Stellar Blade has stellar performance. Huh, get it? Stellar Blade, stellar performance? I'll see myself out. With its PC release and 3-day stats being first in top sellers with 95% positive reviews and a rough estimate of 650,000 players by Gamalytics and a peak of 191,000 players as of writing, you might say it's breaking the charts. The Stellar Blade devs are also celebrating this success by tweeting out, "With your incredible support and encouragement, we have reached the #1 spot on Steam's global top sellers. We will continue to do our best moving forward. Thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts." This game also managed to trigger another journalist, and I'm using that term loosely, and for some reason, they are comparing this to Helldivers 2 out of all things. Yes, this quote-unquote journalist is comparing an online co-op shooter against a single-player action-adventure game by peak player count. At least they didn't put up the nude mods. That would have been something. At the end of the day, a better comparison would have been Assassin's Creed Shadows, but naturally, the media won't bring that up. Off the top of my head, didn't it have something like 64,000? No, it wasn't concurrent, it was peak player. Yeah, 64,000 peak player on Steam. Yeah, make of that what you will in terms of a comparison. And that's third day of release, mind you. I mean, same story would have been with Veilguard, but that would be beating a dead horse at this point. Not to be left out, Games Radar posts an article saying, one day after launch, the top 30 quote-unquote adult Stellar Blade mods have over 350,000 downloads on Nexus Mods, which isn't far off what Nier Automata has after 8 years. Which is a pretty good hit piece if you're saying the game is good. And that title screams, yeah, the game is good. After all, people wouldn't be downloading or even making mods for a mediocre game. I'm at least gonna spare you the pain of reading through that article. If I could, I would take back the time I wasted reading it though. PC gamers then also got triggered by this success. In one of the articles pointing out the overwhelming positive support for the port, they wrote, and I quote,
Finally, a PlayStation PC port that people actually seem to like. Some of you like it for wrong reasons, but PlayStation will take the win.
Why? What are the wrong reasons? Chicks wielding swords, pulling off acrobatic stunts, carving up enemies? I don't see a wrong reason. Another journalist threw his hat in the ring, calling Stellar Blade's characters flat, but he also went for the double whammy, calling the plot bland, failing to match the action's high energy. The more confusing part is that after doing such a terrible headline of calling the game, quote-unquote, slick but hollow action RPG, they still gave it a 6 out of 10. The only thing flat is this guy's brain cells. I mean, they're laying flat on the floor somewhere. This genius recites the intro to the game and talks about Eve's body. Get this, called it a quote-unquote
Back to supermodel figure.
which sounds like he's just trying to imply that this is a bad thing. Oh, mind you, Eve is based on a real person. So, yeah. This guy's giving off beta energy all over the place. Oh, wait. He implied it later as well when he wrote,
She's also meant to be an attractive figure for a presumably drooling audience to be dressed up in various costumes or ogle as the camera obsess as it does in her introductory cutscene over her body.
Tell me you haven't seen a woman without telling me. After spending some more time reading through the article, he just seems to be another journalist who writes reviews that sound verbose and doesn't enjoy video games. One of the sentences that triggered is,
Stellar Blade is an impressive game in terms of fidelity. Often the look of its creatures and post-apocalyptic scenery too. But mainly, sections of its semi-discrete environments take so long to pick through that they wear thin before the next one opens up.
and yet this, he claims that
Stellar Blade is a game filled with dolls, not people. And like dolls, its cast doesn't even seem like much more than an approximation of humanity.
man, this just says more about you than it says about the game if you see the characters in the game as dolls. They're a bunch of pixels on a screen, for crying out loud, not dolls. Get your facts together. The final thing I want to mention, because this guy doesn't deserve any more time really, this garbage brain individual gave Assassin's Creed Shadows, Space Marine 2, and Veilguard a 6 out of 10 as well. Now, 2 of those games do deserve a 6 out of 10 at best. One, about that, Chief. Let's be frank here. And God, I spent too much time on this guy already. Only one of those 3 games can compare to Stellar Blade in terms of quality. And yeah, I am playing it on the channel, mind you. Shameless plug. Anyways, the game is good. What more proof you want than the journalists ranting and raving that the characters don't look like an oil barrel with arms and legs attached to it? The game also has demo on Steam if you're not sure if it's up your alley. And it's not very demanding on system spec side. I mean, the recommended specs are a 2060 Super and a i5 804000 or Ryzen 5 3600X. Not exactly what you call top-of-the-line hardware these days. To get it to run at 1440p, side note, demo runs without an issue on max settings at 1080p on a 2070 Super and a Ryzen 7 3700X, so make of that what you will. And God, I butchered the numbers. And now for a gift that keeps on giving. Epic Games advertising the game Relooted, a game all about being a thief. The game is portrayed as, and I quote, reclaiming real African looted artifacts from Western museums. What's next? A scene where the protagonist eats a watermelon? I mean, a black character stealing stuff is already playing heavily on one of the stereotypes, so might as well go full KFC on it. Hell, even the replies to the tweet ask who is the target audience. But the real star of the show would be the hidden comments. And I know he would definitely approve. But on the bright side, the Steam curator group Sweet Baby Ink Detected pointed out that it also is a DI slop, but they haven't found Sweet Baby Ink involvement yet. Mind you, SBI is not to be confused with the State Bank of India, as the definition proudly brought to you by Google AI, and is not endorsed in any way, shape or form by the Banana Peel Circus or its cast of unprofessional idiots. This slop is made by Nyamakop, a South Africa-based game studio where their games are African-inspired and made by a diverse and inclusive team based primarily in South Africa, but also across Africa. If you have people from across Africa, you'd think there were other stories you can tell, but hey, not like you have a story about some dude going from zero to hero or other stories that portray the main character as someone who uses their wit to overcome a challenge. But what do I know? The studio behind this gem was founded in 2016, and there is a claim to be, and I quote, one of the most promising studios in African game development. And thankfully, they didn't say it themselves. It was Polygon who said it. They did also previously made Semblance, which looks like it's an okay platformer, but nobody played it. If we're looking at SteamDB alone, I have no idea how PlayTracker estimates around 164,000 players owned the game when the other three sites estimate 8,000 to 39,000. On their website, they also claim that Semblance is a success, but literally the statistics say otherwise. Looking at two different trailers of the game, you can see, especially if you use the return YouTube dislike button extension, I strongly recommend using it. It's pretty accurate to what the like to dislike ratio is really. That people really didn't like the game. It's if we had this story multiple times before, but corpos are slow on the uptake. Surprisingly, out of 409 active topics, I could only find 5 locked threads, with one claiming, and potentially being a valid claim, that this game is an international rage bait. The reason why I say it's potentially valid is because the dude is banned. The user goes into how the devs would try to suspend / community ban you if you say anything that could come off as breaking the rules. He also claims to have had his post deleted and given a warning, even though his post followed Steam guidelines. I mean, this game is off to an amazing start already. Straight into the dumpster fires of history. Speaking of dumpster fires, the Splitgate 2 director wore a hat which got a bunch of nobodies angry at him. And he also got called out for microtransactions in his game. Alright, some context before we start. During the game's reveal at Summer Games Fest, Prolux wore a hat that read, "Make FPS Great Again," which for the two people who live under a rock is a reference to Trump's hat, "Make America Great Again," and proceeded to call out COD in his speech on stage, saying, and I quote, "Tired of playing the same Call of Duty every year." Yes, this whole thing started with a meme hat and a jab at the recycled gameplay of COD at every release. Black girl gamers, basically Sweet Baby Ink, but journalists, and I use journalists loosely here, if I understand correctly, are also trying to cancel him for his hat. Literally a joke got him in such hot waters that, you know what, why am I surprised? This black girl gamers at the end of the day. These journalists are angry at Summer Games Fest for him wearing the hat that stated, and I quote, "It's fascinating that this was allowed to be on stage at Summer Games Fest, and it highlights..." No, wait. I can do a better voice.
It's fascinating that this was allowed to be on stage at Summer Games Fest, and it highlights the unseen areas for many of those who sit in positions of leadership in the industry.
Yep, that sounded better if you ask me. Originally, he didn't want to apologize, but then he caved in and posted an apology on Twitter, where he stated that he wanted to stand out and for the hat to not be taken as a political statement. He saw the hat as a meme and stated that he saw it as the truth and wants to improve the genre. He also is saying that he is sorry because of what happened to the community, because there is a division in the community. Sure, because the vocal minority on Twitter that was pissed at a meme would buy your game. You give these types of attention, they'll take a mile. And for the more valid outburst, because we did start the story with 2 outbursts, remember? People were also angry at the team for making a bundle that cost $145, which was discounted to $80 for launch. He did post a tweet explaining that the former head of monetization who came from COD was with them for less than a year and was very aggressive on the pricing. No wonder the jab at COD then. He also stated that he and Derek reevaluated the pricing for items and the battle pass. They also added in-game currency that originally wasn't gonna be there, and the bundle just slipped through the cracks. At least this thing should be easy to fix, right? Only time will tell. And lastly, more Genshin VA stupidity. Somehow last week we missed the fact that Kit Harrison tried defending SAG's bullying strat. He posted that comparing SAG to any other labor union as mafia or bullies is just fundamentally misunderstanding how unions actually function. Just a reminder, Zane's Shack mentioned on his Blue Sky account that, and I quote,
"Everyone forgets that one of the big parts of union culture is being real fucking mean to scabs."
Which is code word for bullying. But that's not it. There's more.
These are people who betrayed their fellow workers and they need to be reminded of it.
And the connections to mafia culture just form by themselves. And let's not forget what happened to Jacob Takanashi. Naturally, this isn't the end of his madman rants. His next sentence, and I quote,
"The idea that SAG is bullying people into signing contracts is so fundamentally flawed that I have to believe people who say it know they are lying. Clients can replace actors in an instant for any reason, even for asking for discussions, but instead, it's the fault of the union for even asking."
Even after staring at this sentence 5 minutes and making 4 failed takes, I still can't figure out what he's referring to, for crying out loud. If you have a wild guess at what's all that about, please shed some light in the comments, I beg you, I'm completely lost. He also stated,
"I have said this a million times, but SAG have their flaws."
And that's all I really have to say, cause this all started as him literally trying to defend the union. Thankfully, SAG reached a tentative agreement, so hopefully we won't have to cover this stuff anymore, right? At least Sean Laraway is proud of the actors who held the line. But I can hear you ask, what about the voice actors who started working before the strike ends? Well, he doesn't seem proud of them considering he called them scabs in the past, and I haven't seen a public apology since then. And before you comment, yes, I will bring this up in any way, shape, or form every time this dude is brought up in the video. Additionally to all of that, Mugen dropped nearly an hour-long video exposing comments said by the members of the negotiating committee for SAG-AFTRA. By the way, go check it out, it's an amazing video. And it's being mass-reported. Looks like someone's not happy for being exposed. Not only that, but in the Discord, they made a step-by-step guide on how to report the video? Oh, brother, these guys are nuts. However, we still have 3 more tweets to go, so buckle up. This is about to get weird. In the second tweet, we got Kaylee Mills claiming that Jennifer Hale is enabling drama tubers and making people in her community feel unsafe, airing their frustrations. Look at the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, to nobody's surprise, the tweet from Kaylee Mills got community noted, and they brought receipts. The links in the community notes show how she assumed Jacob Takanashi's financial situation, and on top of that, it shows how she defended an abusive rapist. But it seems she'll never learn her lesson now, would she? The third tweet is a minor one and a mild one, really. but it shows how both Karina and Kaylee are just petty at this point and blocked Mugen on Blue Sky. I mean, not like you can't create another account, not follow them, and have them bookmarked or something. You know, there's no way for him to figure out who it is. But I digress. And the final tweet is him pointing out that the collective work refusal that isn't authorized by your union is illegal under US law, under the 1935 National Labor Relations Act, which prohibits wildcard strikes and employers may fire the workers who strike. And on that note, Hoyo has some work to do. I'm getting out of here. Like it if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike it, leave a comment, and I'll speak to you next time.